I mean, people are saying prompt engineering is going to become the most important thing. It's not the ability to answer the question, it's to be able to ask the right question. And frankly, like sometimes as an agency, like what we might be doing is really helping our clients ask the right question from the right LLMs. Like that might ultimately be what it is. But like, I don't know. There's so many things that are broken in the world that like I think there's going to be plenty of work for creative people.
Hey, welcome back. Stephanie from Astral here. Today on the show, we have Josh Goldblum, the visionary founder and CEO of Bluecadet, where he leads award-winning digital experiences for cultural giants like the Smithsonian and MoMA. So cool. Through his ventures, Futurespaces and Artwrld, Josh explores the cutting edge of art and tech, making him a perfect guy to discuss the future of experience design. Welcome, Josh.
All right. Thanks for having me.
So happy to have you. I reached out to you. I invited you. I think you had just made some spicy comments about AI on LinkedIn, as you do. And as we covered, you are a giant in the space. So your take on this rapidly shifting landscape that we're all enduring is a lovely thing to have. So I'm excited to jump in with you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, excited to be here. Let's do it.
So your recent post, you made a post, I think about a week ago when OpenAI and sort of did the welcome to the new agentic world. You
Yeah.
posted on LinkedIn about AI agents replacing human web visitors. It was provocative and I think sparked quite a bit of comments, which was fun to see and read through. I guess my question is, are we actually moving towards two separate design paradigms? Do you think one that's optimized for AI and another one that's optimized for human experiences?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I don't know. I think what was provoking that question for me was I started using Operator and I just wanted to kind of put it through its paces and say, okay, well, I spend a lot of time looking for information on these websites. And actually, Bluecadet actually has a pretty robust web practice. Like we're building these really like large web platforms. So, I'm very used to making these things. So as both sort of a maker and a user, I was like, how is this AI going to interact with it that's different than like how a normal user might? And what's fun about Operator is that it has this like little window where it shows it navigating, and in some ways like also like almost struggling with the interface. And you sit there like, okay, buddy, you can find it. And I'm like, okay. I was like, and it's funny because we've also used tools where we've watched users interact with our websites
Yeah.
too. And in some ways, honestly, I do think that in general, websites can be more usable. And I think the thing that we always see that trade-off with when we're designing websites is that there's things that humans really care about, like topography and color and animation and all the, I mean, purportedly they care about this and brand. And I'm like, well, an AI doesn't care about that. It just cares about the content. And then as I'm watching this AI look for this content, I'm like, do I even care about the color and topography and brand like here? Or do I just want it to get the content? And I honestly think probably what you're ended up with is I think generally people just want the content.
Mm.
They want it clean and fast. And honestly, you're seeing, my use of Google and web pages has gone down a lot. I'm spending more time like just getting stuff from Perplexity or ChatGPT because like frankly, I don't know if I want all that design. I just want the content. And that doesn't mean that brand isn't going to show up in other places. I think that there will be places where brands have to express themselves, but I don't know if it's going to be on web pages as much, however many years in the future.
Yeah, no, that hence me saying maybe that was a spicy take coming from someone who spends a lot of time
I
building
employ a bunch of web designers and
like,
developers.
yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, yeah, where I don't know. It might very well shift.
Yeah, I mean, and so that's my next question for you. So what do you think firms like Bluecadet will be designing for? What do you, in this new world, what do you foresee yourself and all those web designers or designers doing?
Oh, it's funny. I started my career. I was actually in-house at the Smithsonian American Art Museum like 20 some years ago. And I was a Flash developer and designer. And before that, I was doing Director, which was Macromedia's product that to make CD-ROMs. So I've seen a few of these like tech shifts where, look at it was like we did Flash websites and like that suddenly became not a thing. So I've seen these sort of inflection points where the technology all changes. And I actually have learned to just embrace it. I think it's okay that we're not doing Flash websites and we moved over to all these other things. I'm like, actually, so like to me, I'm not even really concerned as much about what's next as sort of like just riding the wave and just kicking the tires with these tools to see what can they do. And to me, I find it really exciting. I think where I think we have to sort of double down is in the things that AI can't do readily, which is um, kind of be like really strong human interfaces with our clients and get to what the strategy is for them. I mean, there's this sort of people are saying prompt engineering is going to become the most important thing. It's not the ability to answer the question; it's to be able to ask the right question. And frankly, like sometimes as an agency, like what we might be doing is really helping our clients ask the right question from the right LLMs. Like that might ultimately be what it is. But I don't know. There's so many things that are broken in the world that I think there's going to be plenty of work for creative people.
I appreciate that, and I 100% agree. I'm not sweating it at all. Famous last words. I'm like, "Find me an actual piece of wood that I can knock on, please." So I'm curious, I love that take. It's really, I think, level-headed. So what kind of work do you think that you will leverage AI for? And I think you started to speak to this, but what kind of work will still really require that human touch? And then just final thought on that, because this is one that I've been exploring with a lot of people. Do you think that this will free you up to do more of the kind of creative, ambitious work you've not been able to do, or is that like a pipe dream?
I think it's already freeing me up to do all sorts of creative
Yeah,
ambitious stuff.
that's
And
great.
I love it and I use it often. And it's not just AI. I mean, there's a lot of these sort of no code tooling solutions like Framer or Flutterflow and just like things where you can suddenly build applications as like a pretty small team. And so I think that I think it's going to add tons and tons of capacity to creative people to create software, to do really interesting, amazing, integrated things that like would have been way out of their reach. I think it's going to allow filmmakers to level up what they can do. I think you're going to be able to create like a sci-fi drama with all
Yeah.
sorts of special effects and creature magic and all that sort of stuff. And you're not going to have like a $20 million budget. Like that, I think I think all it'll do is move the line of what can be created. And I think when I was growing up, if you wanted to create films, you were doing it with a camcorder. I think this idea of YouTube would have been like a frightening amount of like content ubiquity.
Yeah, so we used to make films with camcorders, and now we're prompt engineering films to life. Where
No,
is
no, I'm just saying that it's just the amount of stuff that you can do with these tools. And I just think it just would mean that there's more good content out there and like more good experiences. And honestly, that other, creators that might never have had the opportunity to create get to create really cool things. So I'm super bullish about that. There was another aspect to your question that I did not address. What
I
was it?
mean, where is it it's the human touch, so where
Oh,
to
the human touch.
yeah.
Yeah. I had a designer who used to talk a lot. He was a really, he was a creative director. And he used to talk a lot about affordances. And what are the things that like one thing can do over another? What are its superpowers? Um, and like frankly, there are things that humans can do that AI cannot do. One of which has to do with eliciting a whole range of human emotions. We're also like warm bodies, which is not what AI is. We have these very dexterous hands. We have micro expressions. We have scent. We have embodiment. We can hold someone and make them feel like comforted. But you're not going to do that with a robot anytime soon. Like you can do things with the tone of your voice to modulate other people's emotional state. Um, you can actually care, which I don't think is necessarily in the capacity of AI and might never be in the capacity of AI. It might be able to
Yeah.
simulate, but I don't know if it actually can do that. It can make us feel in ways like it can make us feel belonging, it can give us belonging. It can actually do things that are not simulations of things. We have all sorts of way we compete against each other. Like I can measure myself against another human in a way that I won't measure myself against a machine.
Yeah.
There's all these like affordances of humans that are very specific to humans that AI is not going to be able to touch.
Yeah, I totally agree. I recently, was doing I'm a mentor with New Ink still.
Oh yeah,
And I was using AI to help me synthesize some of the conversations for sending follow-up notes with people,
yeah.
and I wrote, "Okay, so in summary, this and this," and the AI was like, "No, that's not what they said at all," and it was so funny to me because I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you can't read between the lines, like, you only see the
Mm.
transcript, you don't know all the experience I have talking to young creative people about how to go from point A to point B, and I know what they're not saying."
The other thing that's also I'm gonna contradict myself a little bit too, which is that like humans, despite having all these affordances to like be able to like connect with other humans, are like not always very good at it.
Yeah.
And actually, I think what's really interesting is how many people are using AI for therapy,
Yeah.
and opening up to AI in a way that they won't with with their friends. Like I live in Santa Monica, but our synagogue and where I send my 4-year-old is in Palisades, was completely burned in the forest fires. And I was at this event yesterday with the synagogue, and like most of these people lost their homes, and the level of emotional discourse was just like it was not inspiring. Like these people were not connecting with each other on a profound level. And I'm
Oh,
like, but I know these people are really, but I know there's a lot of people who are like asking really tough questions to AI. And they're really probing, they're asking almost human questions to AI that they won't ask another human. So
yeah.
I actually hope that in some ways AI becomes a way for us to like sort of like honestly learn how to talk to each other. Like the same way like a treadmill teaches you how to run fast, you know?
Yeah.
So like I actually hope that some of
It's
this
like
stuff
a
can be like
coach.
leveraged towards emotional
Yeah.
emotional fitness.
I 100% use it as a coach to become a better
Yeah.
person. Yeah, I do.
But in ways that
Yeah.
you'd find really annoying if you were like asking your partner like this stuff all the time.
There's a whole other conversation there because
Yeah, totally.
sometimes the annoying stuff is where the learning happens, right?
Oh, totally.
I'm like an efficiency machine. I'm like, "I want growth, but I want it now."
Yeah. No, but I love using AI. I think we actually created this experience at Bluecadet for the MIT Museum, like way back, and this was several years ago, where we created an experience where you could collaborate on writing a poem with an AI. Like you would write a line, it would write a line, and then it would go on the screen, and then be added to this like database of poems. And we were using like GPT-3, but like people were having these really profound experiences with it, because like nobody's gonna sit there and write I mean, maybe some people are gonna write poetry with their friends, but I don't.
Yeah.
And it was just like I think people who hadn't had that experience of being a safe space to be creative found that in AI, which I think is actually very profoundly interesting.
That's a beautiful thing. I love that in terms of just thinking of where AI facilitates experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think your perspective coming in, you're talking about your Bluecadet work, but then also there's Futurespaces and Artwrld. So you're
Yeah.
continuously just talking to people about this stuff and cycling through it from many different positions. And I'm curious from the future spaces side of things, what has surprised you most about how different organizations are approaching AI transformation?
Hmm.
Have you been surprised?
I don't know if I've been surprised. I think it's very interesting because I think you can very quickly tell what organizations and what people are fear driven versus who are like sort of opportunity driven. There's a lot of people I see a lot of people waste a lot of energy trying to push back the ocean. And like, it's like, buddy, it's coming. Or like rationalizing why it would never take their job or do what they could do. And then I see a lot of other people who are just like they look at it and they're like, "Oh my gosh." Like they just want to pick all the things that they can suddenly do with it. And to them it's just this thing that just keeps giving, and the other people are cowering under fear. And honestly, I think both are equally well positioned to benefit from it.
Yeah.
And also is likely to be disrupted by it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, change is a coming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And okay, so then in the sort of the art world side of things, you're connecting with all these incredible artists that are just like this is what they do. They swim in these seas all the time.
Oh my gosh,
So
yeah.
yeah, so what's really exciting you in terms of the experiments with AI that you've heard folks talking about?
Oh, yeah, the art world stuff has been fantastic. I love some of those conversations. And I love artists. I find their perspectives so refreshing. And it's like I think there are some really we had I'm not gonna be able to pronounce her last name, like Monica Bielstad a few weeks ago, who's a futurist, and she focused on like protopian futures, which are like neither like utopian nor dystopian, but they're very much based on like that the human condition will continue along with our tools and that we will always be within this human condition, which I find actually like beautiful and liberating. But I just think what's really wonderful about artists and futurists is that they don't assume that the future's been written or that the way that's been depicted in Blade Runner or Star Trek or whatever is the way it's going to play out. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, Ready Player One was a piece of fiction, and it's not like we're all forced to actualize what that depicts. And like in some ways, the laziest thing you can do as a technologist is just to try to like invent something that you saw on a sci-fi show. And like some of them are terrible. Like 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 it's like, who wants to make Black Mirror? But I think what's really inspiring about the artists is that they're just like, yeah, the future can go a lot of different ways, and it's really up to us to how we want to shape it. And I just find that really powerful and inspiring.
I love that. Josh, I've talked to you a few times now. I don't think I realized you were such a like an optimist. You're so positive.
Oh no, it's all a veneer on a deep fear and depressive tendencies.
I'm
Uh,
like, I keep trying to drag you down and you're like, take it always to this like beautiful place. It's great. I love it. Do it.
no, look, so I have 3 kids, and like my oldest is 12. He's like a 12, Owen, and he's got a similar brain than I do in a lot of ways. And so I talk to him a lot about this stuff, and I'm like, utopia, dystopia, like what it's going to be, like where are we, like how's it all going to end? I'm like, who knows? And it's probably going to be both. It's like the world is filled with like there's lots of like places you can look that are like terrible and terrifying, but it's a lot of it is, can you orient your skills and your talents and whatever towards like communities and projects that give us a better chance of sort of like tilting in one direction.
Yeah. I'm with you for
Yeah.
sure. I've been actually like trying to dive into history to better understand this moment we're in and like
Yeah.
TLDR, been here before and we'll be here again.
Yeah.
Um, so you, like me, have built your career bridging the space between art and tech and culture. Um,
Hmm.
what's the ethical concerns that bubble up for you in considering this intersection in AI?
The ethical concerns. Look, I do think that it's going to be very disruptive. And I think that not everyone is very flexible. And it's like if you've spent all your time learning one thing and you've gotten very good at that one thing, and then suddenly that one thing can be completely automated or becomes entirely commoditized. It's like I don't expect everybody to be as like elastic. And I think it's gonna be very dangerous to figure out, okay, not everyone is sort of like pliable in the way that they're gonna change what they do or how they do it. And I think society also sometimes has a very hard time accommodating that stuff too. I do think that when you can solve very, very hard problems with these like models, there's a lot of things that can be solved that otherwise would have required a lot of very smart people and a lot of time,
Right. Exactly.
that I think can be addressed pretty effectively.
Yeah.
Um, you
We have super intelligence at our fingertips. Like, let's solve all the problems.
We could. Maybe I'm a little bit of a techno optimist. I do think that I think there's some truth in it. I think that there's a lot of the problems that we've, like think about like people who couldn't afford a lawyer, like how scarce those resources were. And like suddenly like those people now have access to that. That's profound. Even like, like this stuff is a lot more reliable than WebMD. And if we can make sure that these systems are oriented towards truth, there's a lot of power in empowering people with more knowledge.
Yeah. Okay, so we like to try and like end on like a real actionable note.
Sure.
I think you've got a lot of big ideas, thoughts in terms of AI and where this is all taking us, going back to the sort of web experience piece of it.
Yeah.
Um, how are you evolving Blue Cadet's approach to stay ahead of this change?
One thing that we're doing is we're definitely orienting towards strategy, and we're making sure that we are in those conversations where the big picture is being determined and that we're not just putting ourselves in the position of implementation. We're embracing these technologies, both in the stuff that we develop for our clients. We're doing a bunch of big projects for big museums where we're using AI for collection search and doing all sorts of amazing things, being able to integrate AI seamlessly into the content, the stuff that you can do to like generate bespoke audio tours using like 11 Lab. There's amazing potential. So like one, like really being curious and embracing that potential. We also have a very robust R&D practice, and I've been very staunch to defend that. Even when we've got really busy, I just try to make sure that my team has time to do R&D, because one, it allows us to stay ahead, but it also keeps our brains pliable and keeps us curious, and make sure that's part of the culture. But I think honestly, the most important thing you can do running like a creative organization in this time is to make sure that you are cultivating creativity and curiosity, because again, you need to be pliable, you need to be flexible, you need to be like water to get through this. And that's how we're preparing.
Yeah, I love that you ended there. I had a lovely conversation with Claude a couple months ago about
Mm.
entropy, and where we ended was that I need to be like water. So
Gotta be, yeah,
we're
gotta be
doing
fluid. You gotta move. You gotta be able to move through the crevices.
yes, I love it. All right, thank you, Josh.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely. No, it's a pleasure.
yeah, definitely. It's nice to get to interview you after hearing you interview so many people.
Oh yeah, no, I'm happy to talk about myself. Apparently.